Hey YouTube, it's Evan Magician 34, and I've got a deck for you I've been really excited about for some time. It's Windups. This is still kind of a preliminary build, and there's a lot of test playing going on. And yes, the set after this is going to give us some more cool Windup support, but this is just so much fun I want to try it now. You really have to make the right play at the right time. You can easily misplay it. So I gotta say, this is a deck for a player who's got a decent amount of experience and isn't afraid to practice it a little bit. But that said, if you do that, it can be a lot of fun. And it can be very rewarding when it goes off correctly. This deck can generate frightening amounts of card advantage. So let's go ahead and get started. It runs 3 copies of Windup Knight. This guy's just basically got a built-in Necro, and he's 1800 attack, so that's cool. He's a warrior also. Almost all the Windups are actually not machines. 3 copies of Windup Soldier. He can become a level 5 and have 2200 attack, so that's cool. Also a warrior. We're running 2 copies of Cyber Dragon. This is basically to, number one, I mean, you can just put some muscle on the field and then summon somebody else and just kind of do beatdown, obviously. But the real fun of Cyber Dragon is going Cyber Dragon and then summoning Windup Soldier, and you can either do beat and then Xyz summon, or you can just go ahead and start up Xyz summon if you need to get something off the field. And more on that later when we get to the extra deck. We also run 3 copies of Windup Rabbit. This is just a staggeringly powerful card. It's pretty inexpensive right now at the time I made the video. A good pickup right now. I definitely pick up several because it's going to be, I think it's going to go up over the long term. The thing just, during either player's turn, you can just remove from play any wind-up monster, including itself. And you can use this guy to basically trigger your wind-up effects like Magician and whatnot, and set off your factory. And it comes back into play. It doesn't even like summon itself back into play. It just returns to play during your next standby phase. It's a really phenomenal card. We're also running 2 copies of Wind-Up Magician. When you set off a wind-up effect other than his, he goes off and he special summons a level 4 or lower wind-up monster from your deck. A lot of utility, creates a lot of opportunity to Xyz summon and whatnot. I opted for 1 Wind-Up Juggler. The effect's only so-so. The main reason I got it is because it can be a good generic 4-star to get with your Wind-Up Magician if you're just going to Xyz summon anyway. But it is a 1700 point monster, which doesn't stink. Running 2 copies of Wind-Up Kitten. This thing's really good. It's basically just got a built-in compulsory evacuation device that you can activate once, which is awesome. You can't do it during your opponent's turn because it's just an ignition effect, but considering you're summoning a monster, you can just bounce another monster on the field. That's pretty phenomenal. And of course, you can reset it with Rabbit or Overwind or one of a number of other things in this deck. So quite a nice card there. We're running 2 copies of Wind-Up Snail. This does seem at first kind of like a what card, but it has 2000 defense, so basically the idea is you set it on turn 1, they bounce off of it with most of the things in the format, and then during your turn you bounce their set back row with it and get it out of your hair so you have a clean shot on them when you do a bunch of summoning on your own turn. We're running 2 copies of Effect Veiler also just to keep them from messing with us too much. You can opt out of the 2 Veilers and just go down to 1 if you want, but I like the 2 Veilers. They're also the only tuner in the deck. So anyway, that's the whole monster count. We're also running Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, those are pretty obvious cards. Heavy Storm, because we like to make big sweeping turns, so getting rid of back rows is good. 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon. 2 copies of Pot of Duality. You don't necessarily have to do a lot of special summoning, so this is really quite a nice card. Doesn't get in your way very often. 2 copies of Pot of Avarice. You don't really stuff your grave very much, but if your opponent hits like a lot of counter traps early or something like that, they can mess you up, so Pot of Avarice can help you get back on your feet. We're running Reinforcement of the Army because we have plenty of good targets. This is basically to get your warrior and your soldier to make sure you've got those guys, because those guys' effects go off easily to trigger your wind-up factory and Xyz summon and whatnot. So you can get the one of your choice there. Wind-up factory. This is just an amazing card. It reminds me a lot of Black Whirlwind in a lot of ways. If you don't know, it's basically just a continuous spell, not unlike Whirlwind. It's just anytime a wind-up effect is activated, but once per turn, but that's your turn or your opponent's, or both, or whatever. If any wind-up effect goes off, that could be your opponent's too, like Zenmain for instance, you get to basically rotate yourself for a wind-up monster. So it's pretty scary because you can activate it with your own windups on your own effect, and then you can have something like, say, Wind Up Knight or Wind Up Rabbit during your opponent's turn, activate its effect, and then profit from this card during your opponent's turn. So yeah, and you can even have like multiples on the field and they both go off, stuff like that. You can really pull through your deck very quickly and do a lot of searching. And card advantage obviously is a good thing. We're also running Book of Moon. It can be a great way to reset your windups, especially like during your opponent's end phase, but can also, of course, get your opponent's monsters in a more favorable position. We're running 2 compulsory evacuation devices. It can be good for recycling your windup effects, but obviously it's also good for taking care of Synchros and Xyz monsters. 2 copies of Bottomless Trap Hole. I had been running Solemn Warning, but the life points were kind of an issue. It was too much of a, I have to gamble whether or not this is going to kill me to activate it or kill me to not activate it kind of thing. I think Bottomless does a lot better job, plus the removal from play, the banish is definitely another perk to that card, so I decided for Bottomless over it. Solemn Judgment, just because, well, it stops big plays and things that can upset you, and it stops everything. And our final cards are 3 copies of Overwind, because you can flip it in the damage step and double your attack and defense, which makes almost, well, the majority of wind-up monsters unkillable. And you can inflict major damage with it at the same time. Plus, it bounces it to your hand to recycle its effect. Just a phenomenal card. It's even good on stuff like Snail. I mean, you can have Snail have 4,000 defense with that card. Just a really very good card. Reminds me a lot of limiter removal. The extra deck is 1 Trishula, 1 Stardust, and these are mostly just Synchro staples in case you need to make it with Valor or Monster Reborn. Scrap Dragon, Black Rose Dragon. You'll notice we've cut down a lot on the Synchros to make room for the Xyz monsters. Bryanak, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Ally of Justice, Catastor. We're running 2 copies of Tiras, Keeper of Genesis. Basically because Xyzing for 5, if you do it more than once, it's quite possible these are going to be your targets both times. It's a very useful, very good card, so you definitely want to have it around as an option. I am running 1 Adreus, Keeper of Armageddon, just because he can pop any face-up card, and he can be useful like against Dark Worlds and stuff like that. And if you just need to pop that monster to get it out of your way, and Tiras, you don't want to do it that way, like you want to rack up damage or something faster, Adreus can be a nice alternative. Running 1 copy of number 39 Utopia. And we're running 2 copies of Wind Up Zen Maester, however you pronounce that. Basically because this guy's ability to reset stuff like, say, your Knight or your Rabbit or all kinds of stuff. I mean, this guy can create some really nasty tricks and abuses. I mean, once this deck gets going, basically this guy is actually your 4-star Xyz monster of choice, not Utopia. Plus, he is a wind-up, so you can actually overwind him. To make him, I mean, depending on how many materials he's got, you can make this guy 5 grand attack, which is just awesome. We do run 1 copy of Wind Up Zenmane. We don't Xyz for 3 a lot, but still, if you do, this guy's definitely a target you're going to want, obviously. And Levier the Sea Dragon could also be another good one to help gain access to anything that may have been removed. And we also run 1 copy of Gachi Gachi Kentetsu because we do have some 2 stars, so overlaying for this guy is certainly non-reasonable, and the attack boost doesn't hurt either. So there you go. That's my preliminary build anyway for wind-ups. It's a lot of fun. I'm very excited about this archetype, and I think that it'll be even more commonly played after future sets have come out. So anyway, until next time, rate, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more cool videos.